Can the Lord of the Rings Online capitalize on Rings of Power's commercial and marketing success coming in early September? It's been something that we've been talking about as players for a long time. We've been speculating and thinking about it, and it seems like Lord of the Rings Online is really taking some great steps in the right direction to get this game ready for the influx of players that will be coming in September. My name is Bright Life, this is my fancy shirt, and today I want to talk to you about the biggest updates coming to Lord of the Rings Online in the next couple of weeks. Let's jump into it. Alright, so if you follow my channel, you will know that we've talked a lot about how important early September is for Lord of the Rings Online. Whether or not the Amazon series Rings of Power is good, it's going to stoke the imagination and the excitement in the Lord of the Rings universe, and if you have that excitement stoked and you're an MMO fan, you're going to want to play the Lord of the Rings MMO, at least for a little bit. And so we as content creators have been talking a lot about how Lord of the Rings needs to change, especially in areas of lag and graphics. And I gotta tell you, Lord of the Rings Online in their most recent developer interview came through in a huge way. The community manager Cordovan actually interviewed the executive producer Severlin in a big live stream on Twitch, which by the way had over 200 people watching at a time, which for Lord of the Rings Online is massive. It is huge. Normally you'll get around 100 to 130 people watching on Twitch across all channels. They had over 200. People really love this game. And in this interview, they actually talked about 4 huge reveals that I think are extremely important. And so I want to talk through those. Number 3 actually surprised me. Wow, I sound like a Buzzfeed article right now. Number 3 will surprise you. What kind of cheese are you? But I am actually really excited to share these with you because they answered a lot of questions. They brought a lot of things to the focus, and I think it's going to be a great season for Lord of the Rings Online. So let's jump into the 4 big reveals from the most recent developer interview, and then I want to talk about some takeaways that I have, some encouragement for the developers, because I think there are even more things that they can shift and change to make the game even better. So number 1 is that lag is getting worked on. This was probably one of the most important things that they talked about, because since starting to make content for LOTRO around 3-ish months ago, one of the most recurring comments that I get on my channel is that lag is a huge issue, especially for the EU side server players. The stuttering in the game can sometimes be really frustrating, and for many people it can be immersion breaking, which in a game that really prides itself on an immersive world and phenomenal music, great atmosphere, it's a bummer to see lag actually happening quite as much as it does, especially for the EU side player. I have some EU side people that actually have joined my Discord, link is in the description for that, and they've shared some footage with me of this, and it's actually really bad. I mean, you're talking about 1 or 2 frames per second that they're getting, and that's a really big game-breaking bummer, especially in fellowship content, raid content, or if you're a caster class, and they talked about it in a big way. The Lord of the Rings Online team is moving a lot of resources and personnel and financially into fixing lag, and they actually talked about where the lag is coming from. The number 1 place that they say is that, of course, so many things have been added to this game that there are things like damage over time effects that end up really slowing servers down. And because it was built on such an old architecture, when you get like a raid of, 10 to 20 people going, and there's all these damage over time and heal over time's effects, those things tend to actually make the servers stutter. And what's interesting is they explained that if you were in a server instance with some raid group in that same, server layer server instance, can you tell I'm not very technically smart, that their damage over time and heal over time effects actually will cause you to lag and your side of the server to stutter, which is kind of crazy to be honest. But again, maybe that's really normative. I'm not very smart in this area, but it's cool to see that they're addressing that and they're really putting in resources to make sure that that shifts. Now, there was only one kind of negative. The community kind of came back with I'm not sure about that when they asked about EU servers that are actually physically located in the EU. The executive director Severlin did say that even if they put a physical server farm there, that it wouldn't really change much. The biggest lag that's happening is not necessarily ping related, but it is in fact those damage over time and heal over time effects and those kind of stacking effects. I doubt this is true. If that were the case, then I'm sure that no other game, World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online, no other online game would actually have servers in the EU or in Australia or in Southeast Asia if ping didn't matter. I mean, obviously ping matters. It's kind of just a fact of life. So I'm sure that the real issue there is probably just that actually getting a server farm there, maintaining it is probably very expensive. I know that the EU does have some pretty strict laws in that space, so that's probably the biggest issue, but it is really cool to see them working on that lag, calling it out and saying this is one of our big goals is to fix that, which honestly I will say a claps and applauds to you, LOTRO team, because that is the biggest thing that's been holding this game back in my opinion. And so I'm really excited to see that. And of course, like I said, a lot of people that have been on my videos commenting over the last 3 months have said that their computer lags when they play this old game. And these are people that can run Minecraft at like ultra at 60 FPS. So I mean, these are powerhouse machines. Okay, number 2 that I was really excited about were graphic updates on the character models. They actually talked about a lot of new character customization options. They said that these are going to roll out over time, that these are going to be coming in the next iteration of games. And this is something that if you've played a lot of different MMOs, you'll have noticed that the character creation screens have been largely reworked. Blizzard did an entire overhaul on World of Warcraft. If you go into character creation screens on even some of the newer MMOs, you're going to notice really fine, intricate character creation details. And I think that's because in the MMO especially, you are your character and you want your character to be as unique as possible. And in the current graphics settings for LOTRO, it's not really that impressive. It just hasn't kept up with the times. And so this is something that they're focusing on. It makes me excited because if they can do some graphical updates to the world, if they can create some new character customization options, and maybe even just some basic graphic update options, that's going to allow the player to come in and create a character that they really connect with. And that's probably the most baseline important thing in an MMO, is to have a character that you are able to connect with and then immerse yourself into the world with. All the end game stuff comes after that. All of the lag that you experience comes after that. The first thing that you're doing is actually creating this character that you're going to be leveling through the experience. And if it feels old, you're probably not going to connect to the character quite as much as you would with one of the newer MMOs that are out there. And so I'm really excited about this change. Now, they did talk about it being rolled out over time. This is not going to be an instant fix, but hey, it's cool to see them doing that. Well, hey, before we jump into point number 3, I want to say a massive thank you to our patron, Nate the Knight, coming in at the Soldier tier, our very first patron since we launched that Patreon a week or so ago. I want to say a massive thank you to you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Without our patrons, we would be less of a channel. And so I want to say a massive thank you. If you'd like to support the channel and become a patron, you can actually join that in the link below. The Patreon's there. You can support further efforts of the channel. You can get exclusive access, all of that stuff. So thank you so much, Nate. Really appreciate you, man. Now, point number 3 was actually extremely surprising, but in a good way. It's something that I'd never thought of before, but in fact, I was very excited to hear, and that is that they are creating a brand new level 1 to 30 leveling experience zone. And when I first heard this, I went, do we really need that? I mean, we've got the Shire, which is a great zone. We've got Breeland, which is a great zone. We've got Arid Luin, which is a disgrace of a zone. Let's just be honest. You and me both agree on that. Nobody in the comments that disagrees is actually a real person. I've got bots in my comments sometimes. Anyway, Arid Luin, trash zone. But a level 1 to 30 zone, as I began to think about it, was really interesting. The idea that characters that log on would have the option to level from 1 to 30 in a brand new experience. Now, I'll link to a Louis 7 video recently that he came out with that said the idea of the 1 to 30 zone is very exciting to me, because you got to think about the person that is going to be coming back during the Amazon Rings of Power hype craze that's going to be happening in early September. If they're anything like me, who played 15 years ago back in the vanilla days, and then they came back every once in a while, they were never able to get past between like levels 7 and 20. Because you kind of get into the routine at that point. You're killing boars and you're killing wolves and you're collecting pelts and turning those in, and that's really your leveling experience, but you've done that before. And actually having to push through that leveling experience can be a little bit boring. Let's just be honest. Even me, having streamed and been around a fun community of people while I was going through those experiences, I think those were probably the lowest points of my leveling experience, that level 5 to 20 space. And so I think what's so great is if someone is returning to the game, which is going to be the first wave of people, the people that remember LOTRO and are returning, they're going to have a brand new levels 1 to 30 zone to really level through. It's going to be a new experience, hopefully built up to 2022 standards. We're going to have to see, but that makes me very, very excited because it's going to lead to player retention. Because in my mind, this game really does take off at around between levels 25 and 30. That's when you really get into the story. That's when you really get into the beautiful zones. And I think that's going to be a great thing to see. And so I'm really, really excited about that. Hats off to the dev team on that one because it's massive. All right, and the last big thing that they mentioned was a brand new affix type system where essentially you would be able to go into a mission and take a keystone that you would place on a pedestal, and then it would actually up-level that mission for you based on the level of keystone that you put into the pedestal. Does this sound a little bit familiar? And then you would get better rewards and better loot from this. This is to try to help make sure that the end game content people have something really fun to do. And if this sounds familiar, keystones in pedestals that up-level things, it's WoW's Mythic Plus system. It's the idea that you can go into an old dungeon, an old raid, and you can put a keystone in, which will then make it a lot harder to do. It makes it a lot more difficult. It requires more communication. And I think this is a really, really good idea. Now, in response to this interview, I haven't noticed a lot of people talk about this system a lot because, of course, the lag and the graphics and the new zone, those are the things that are really exciting. But I think that this is a great thing because it allows people to have more fun through challenge in the end game content. I think that Mythic Plus is one of the best things that has ever been added to World of Warcraft. I think that we could remove the timer and I'd be happy with that, but the idea that you can make these really fun instances be replayable and have a lot of fun factor in them and allow people to really challenge themselves in these spaces, I think it's a great idea. And again, it's something that's kind of low on the totem pole with this one, which is why it comes in at number 4, but I still think it's a really, really cool thing that they're copying and they're learning from other MMOs, bringing that into this one that you and I both love so much, and I think it's going to be a great time. So I'm looking forward to this new kind of what I'm going to call the LOTRO Mythic Plus system that's going to be coming with a future update. All right, so those are the 4 things that I'm most excited about based on this interview, just kind of thinking back on it, reflecting, but there are a couple things that I want to give as like almost applications or what comes next, or give me some maybe even encouragement for the developers. All right, the first thing that I want to take away from this is this: praise the devs. It's something that I want to say more often in my videos because as I've watched the Twitter interactions or the YouTube comments on most developer interviews like this, they get the big brunt of the most negative parts of our community. And that's a bummer. I think that we have to remember that these are real people that are working to make this game better for you and for me. And so I think that being able to say, hey, you guys are focusing on the things that we've asked you to focus on. PvMP was one of the other things that was talked about, but lag, graphics, all of those things, they're listening and they're really working with the budget that they have. And so one, I would just say praise the devs. If you have any personal connection with an SSG, or even just sending the LOTRO account on Twitter, just a quick tweet that says, thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing on this great game. It's really, really appreciated. I know that that encourages their team, and we should be doing that. We're humans together on this world trying to make it a better place. There are certainly things that are negative about LOTRO that we can talk about, but let's remember that there are human beings on the other side of your keyboard, other side of your phone, and we can give them some praise and some thanks. So even right now, I'd say pause the video and go leave a comment on one of their videos. Go actually tweet at them and say, hey, thanks so much for all the work that you're doing. It's super, super appreciated. I'd love to see the positive coming from our community outweigh the negative that exists within the MMO community. All right, number 2, the September release is looking massive for Lord of the Rings Online. And one of the speculations and nervousnesses that I've had over the past couple months is, will they possibly ignore this opportunity and let it go by due to budget constraints, due to personnel constraints? Doesn't seem like it. It seems like they're really taking a good look at September. They're taking a good look at this influx that's going to be coming in, and they're responding in kind. I mean, the 15th anniversary brought a wave of people back to the game, but I think that this next wave coming in September is going to be even bigger, and I think the LOTRO team thinks so as well. So I'm excited to see them actually looking at that and saying, let's build something good for those players that are coming back. So they're really, really focusing in, and that's a great takeaway from this. All right, number 3, they should do this more often. This was so well received by the Twitch community. It allowed us to ask questions. It allowed us to kind of be a part of the development process. In fact, one thing that Severlin said that I was like, in my live reaction video, I was like, no, don't do that. He said, we need to make the developer release letters like once every 4 months or something like that. 3 months is way too often. And I jokingly said, wait, Severlin, what about my content? Which was a joke, but really when they were talking, you could tell that the LOTRO community really wanted to hear what was going on with this game. And so I would honestly, if I could make one recommendation to SSG, is if you can get Cordovan and Severlin on a stream once a month to just talk about the little things that are happening, I think the community would really positively receive that. One thing that Cordovan said was, hey, with our servers, we actually did some physical upgrades to them. We put new cards and slots or something like that. That was really interesting to me. I thought that's really cool that they're actually taking those steps. And it can seem like not a lot is going on from the development side. All you hear about is, once every 3 to 4 months. If they could do this kind of a thing, this developer live stream interview more often where they answer questions, I really do think it would build trust with the community. And so if I could just push back on Severlin and say, man, I would love to see this more often. This was a great content stream. This was awesome. It built a lot of confidence in the community. I think that would be really good for the game. All right, and my last takeaway is this. The Lord of the Rings Online team is really putting their foot on the gas pedal of this game right now. And that's really exciting. I think for a long time, the phrase dead game got thrown around about this game because it felt like it was just kind of going through the rhythms and going through the motions. But it really feels like right now that the LOTRO team is saying, let's really go for it. And I think this is a fascinating thing for you and I, because you and I probably love MMOs just in general. And I think it's really fascinating to see what happens when a 15-year-old game that's been dated, that's had its ups and its downs, decides we're going to push for a new season for our game. This is a very unique experience in that there is a huge show coming out around the IP of this game that is pushing to try to be the next Game of Thrones, and the game is responding to that with new content, with upgrades to their systems, with updates, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I'm very happy to say that it seems like LOTRO is putting their foot on the gas pedal and moving this thing forward. So it seems like it's going to be a great time for the game. I'm looking forward to the next couple months just to see what happens and see how things work, but I'd actually love to hear from you on this one and with everything that I talked about in this way too long video at this point. What do you think about it? Are you excited about the updates that are coming? Are you nervous? What do you think about my takeaways? Do you think this is going to be a good season for LOTRO? Is this going to be a bad season for LOTRO? Let me know in the comments below, because I do get the chance to read every single one of those, and it's always awesome to hear from you guys. Hey, if you liked the video, please leave it a like. If you loved it, please subscribe to the channel. It encourages me to do this more and more often. But friends, the two things at the end of this video are the most important thing that we talk about each time. You are more loved than you know, and you are so much more valuable than you realize. I hope that you have an incredible day, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to let you know a couple ways to connect with me. First of all, we got an awesome Discord in the description. We've got a Patreon if you'd like to give to the channel and help support more video creation. And I am live on Twitch quite often over at twitch.tv/brightlifecommunity. Would love to see you there. Always love interacting on those live video streams. But I hope you have an incredible day, my loved and valued friend. Have an awesome one.